Live from the SALT conference, you've got a lot of fast money, a lot of big hedge fund money talking about Bitcoin, the currency known as the Wild West of money that's really been grabbing a lot of attention with all the hedge fund managers here at SALT. You know, already it's interesting. It might be a thing of the past, not necessarily, but take a look at Bitcoin versus the U.S. dollar, trading in opposite directions. Now, over the past 2 years, the U.S. dollar is up about 17.5% versus Bitcoin, which is up 2.6%. Bitcoin's still alive, but two of Bitcoin's biggest believers, the Winklevoss brothers, have this brand new venture, Gemini, that's been going for about, what, about a year or so?
6 months or so.
About six months. And it's basically what they would like for you all to believe, a NASDAQ for Bitcoin, buying, selling, and disrupting the global foreign exchange world. They say, on countdown to the closing bell in October, this, watch.
If you're going to Europe for a vacation and you need euros, rather than getting ripped off in the exchange in the airport or from your hotel or something
exactly.
like that.
Are you going to put these guys out of business, the ones in the airport where I need euros and I need pesos?
Yeah,
hopefully, hopefully.
Or at least make it a fair playing field.
Fast forward to today, the Winklevoss Gemini Bitcoin exchange now trading Ethereum, and we're welcoming the Bitcoin brothers here, Tyler and Cameron. Great to have you both. So, look, have you gotten rid of the kiosks? I saw 4 of them in Vegas. You're not quite there yet, Tyler.
Not there yet. We're not really competing with the kiosks. We're just a Bitcoin spot exchange and the Ether spot exchange.
Right.
They're 2 cryptocurrencies, and we're the first exchange in the world that's licensed. We were actually approved by Governor Andrew Cuomo last Thursday in the state of New York. And we're
to do what? Explain to people what exactly you're doing. Aside from trading Bitcoin on Gemini, which is a Bitcoin exchange, you just threw out the term Ether. What's that?
So Ether is the token of the Ethereum network, which is focused on disrupting contract law. And so we just added Ether on, trading began on Monday, and it's our second cryptocurrency to add to Gemini.
Okay, you started trading Monday. Tell me what's been happening. Have you gotten people jumping on the exchange and trying to trade?
Yeah, people are definitely knocking down the door. The volume has gone up dramatically in the last few days. It's only been 3 days of trading, but our Ether books are climbing high, and it's moving in the right direction.
Talk about exactly what you anticipate in, I'm going to throw out a year, because Bitcoin back in 2013 hit a high of more than $1,100 per Bitcoin. I mean, we can show what it's done since then, but I believe in January of 2015 it hit a low of 150 or so dollars, and now it's trading at 400 or so. It's very, am I wrong, volatile here?
Well, it was in the early days, and that was a lot of because the Wild Wild West, the regulatory uncertainty, but with the advent of like Gemini licensed exchanges, it brought a lot more certainty to the market, and Bitcoin, I think over the past month, has been less volatile than gold. Yeah,
the Wall Street Journal had an article that it was more stable than gold over the last 24 days, about a week ago. So Bitcoin is acting like a mature asset. There's a lot of liquidity, and there's a lot of licensed operators. Now, like Gemini, we're the first ever licensed operator in the world where you can buy and sell Bitcoin and Ether, which we think are effectively call options on the future of 2 major technologies. So if you think that Bitcoin's going to disrupt gold and Ether is going to disrupt, Ethereum network is going to disrupt contract law, then it's really early days, and these are the tokens and assets and how to invest in that future.
It sure would seem that the hedge fund world is interested, but that the banking world might be threatened. Is that a possibility?
Not so much, really. I think they're alternatives, and I think Bitcoin does things. You know, I think fiat currency is here to stay. There's going to be a use case for that. But I think, quite frankly, before there was licensed exchanges like Gemini, the hedge fund world couldn't invest in these tokens. So this is really the first opportunity.
Convince me here and now, guys, because I'm still that loser who has nickels and pennies and quarters in my wallet, that one day I'm only going to be using Bitcoin.
I think you'll be using digital currency. I think Bitcoin will disrupt gold. I think the U.S. dollar will still be controlled by the U.S. government, but it will go onto its own blockchain controlled by the government. I think really what will happen is you use a combination of Bitcoin, Ether, your devices, the Internet of Things. We've got billions of devices coming online. They'll never exchange value with PayPal, credit cards, or ACH, but they will use cryptographic tokens. So your suite of options will increase,
Right.
I think fiat currencies will become digital, so credit cards, plastic, cash will be gone, but Bitcoin will be one piece of that larger puzzle, and cryptocurrency is here to stay. It's a space that we believe is the future, and Gemini is the picks and shovels company of that future.
You wouldn't expect to buy your cup of coffee with gold, but you would want to verify that it's in the vault that it is. Bitcoin's actually verifiable through the blockchain. It's scarcity that you can verify, and that's one of the reasons why we think it's going to disrupt gold.
Well, we wish you luck. I would be remiss if I let you go and didn't ask you a question quickly about Facebook, because Facebook was, listen, pegged earlier this week as suppressing certain conservative news and maybe shoveling, speaking of shoveling, news that it felt was important versus what the actual users felt was important. Where do you stand on free speech, having been at the very beginning of Facebook?
Free speech is obviously one of the most important principles of our country. I can't speak to the Facebook issue per se. I just don't know anything about it other than I've read some headlines.
Yeah,
but
I think it comes down to the transparency and what you tell your users you're doing. I'm not that close to the story, so I don't know exactly what the representations and expectations were. But if the expectations were that it was, going to be an algorithm that was not pushing a certain thing, then I can see why people would be disappointed. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a millennial way of saying I'm done talking. Cameron, Tyler, lovely to have you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.